to do a flameless candle votive. And tonight's class is recorded. If you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. We have the everyone on mute so that everyone can hear me. And the replay of this class will be available on michaels.com/classes. And they've organized it by jewelry now, so you can browse and find just the jewelry classes easier. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce the project really quick. So tonight we're making these really fun little candles. The candle is flameless. That's inside of it. And we're using some size 6 seed beads. The stitch is called Peyote stitch. And you can make them in any colors you'd like. This one is Royal Topaz. The one I just had up was the Hawaii mix, I believe. And then tonight I'm going to work with Retro Blue. And then we're going to have another sample in Sapphire. So you get to see some fun different color combinations. And I wanted to just talk really quick about the candles. So tonight I'm using, these are the Ashland brand Flameless votives. And they're little tea light shapes. They look like this. Their diameter is about 1.5 inches. It's just a hair under 1.5. And so this project is designed to fit this candle. But at the end, I believe I will have time to show you a way that you can do the same project with a different starting method to fit other size candles or other size containers if you wanted to maybe make it go around a cup or something. So we should probably have time for that at the end, I believe, and I'll show you guys that. And I wanted to give a shout out to Pat because she was the one who asked me that question and showed me some photos of her votive candle that she made. So her feedback was really helpful. And I want to say thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to my other camera really quick here. Okay, and so here's an up close of the candles. I'm going to turn the flames off so you can, well, let's see, is it? Can't decide if the flame's making it harder to see or not. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead and go with that. All right. And so how these are made is with a peyote stitch in the round. So we take a strand of wildfire beading thread and get some size 6 seed beads. I'm using mixes. You can use any color you'd like. This is the Retro Blue mix that I'm showing here right now. And to cut the thread, I'm going to be using the Recollections Precision Scissors. And let's see the candles. So the candles look like this. And again, they are about 1.5 inches diameter. They come in a pack of 4. And the search number for these for the Michaels app is in the handout. Okay, and then the other things you're going to need are some size 10 hard beading needles. And if you have handy a pair of chain nose pliers, you'll see me using those every time I thread a needle to flatten the wildfire thread so that it's easy to get through the eye of the needle. Okay, so I'm going to get started. For this project, the instructions will have you cutting about 45 inches of thread, but I always encourage people to cut the length that they're comfortable working with. We're definitely going to have to add thread, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So don't be afraid of adding thread. And also other thread types will work, such as Fireline. Okay, so here is the trick for getting the wildfire threaded. Use the chain nose pliers just to flatten it, but don't pull. And I used to do that and it would pull the color off the thread. We just flatten it without pulling. It works perfectly. It will noticeably flatten. Then you can get it through the needle. There we go, almost there. And then I usually fold it down about 7 inches from the top. And we'll work this on a single strand. So the first step is to add a stop bead. So pick up any bead, bring it onto the needle, slide it down, and then you're going to want to leave a tail of about, let's see, I think I said to leave 10 inches or so. Just enough that you can weave in your thread later. And so I'm going back through the bead in the opposite direction. So this is the tail thread coming out this way, and this is the working thread being pulled through. And the stop bead will just make it easier for you to string your beads. Okay, and as I was saying earlier, if you're using this candle, you're going to want to string 50 beads around. And I will show you guys at the end a way that you can measure for another candle size or another container. So I'm going to put these on in groups of 10 so I don't lose count. Got 5, 8, here's 2 more for 10. Okay, and this goes pretty fast. Okay, there's 10 more. And so I'm just doing a random pattern, but you could, if you wanted to, you could do stripes, you could do, you know, just anything that you can come up with that you like. It will all work out great. There's 7 and 10. And I just need 10 more, I believe. Got, yeah. Okay. Bring those down. And so here's the stop bead at the end here. Move that a little bit out of the way. I'm going to use my candle. Come around and go back through the first bead. And I find my end here. There we go. So just go through that first bead that we added. So this one here, and that's the stop bead. And so what you'll see here is it fits this candle really nicely with a little bit of air. As we add the next row of peyote stitch, it will tighten up around the candle. Okay, so that was rows 1 and 2. And in peyote stitch, the first 2 rows are strung in a straight line. And then you pick up row 3, add a bead, skip a bead, go through the next bead. And so that's the pattern we're going to follow now. I picked up a new bead. I'm going to skip 1 bead. And I'm going to go through the next bead. And the tail thread is handy because I can use it to tighten as I pull and go along. And so there's 1. I'm going to skip this bead and go through that one. And skipping a bead and going through the next one. And as you add each bead, skipping, going to the next, it will start to show a stacking pattern where 2 beads sit one on top of the other. And this is peyote stitch in the round. And I am using the candle mostly just to keep a round shape as I'm going. It will do that anyway for you, and you can straighten it out later, but it's more just style and preference for, you know, how I like to build mine. But you don't have to build it around the candle if you don't want to. Skipping a bead and going through the next. And so it's slow going at first, but then you'll get faster with each new round. There we go. So this mix is called Retro Blue, and it is really pretty. I don't know how well these colors are coming across over the internet, Miles, but they are really gorgeous to my eyes here. And some of them are transparent, and with this design, transparent beads are a win because you'll see that glow come from behind them. Going around. Oops, I caught my scissors there. I'm going to move these out of the way. There we go. This is one of those projects where you don't, once you've done your first row, you don't have to count. So you can work on it while listening to something, you know, or even, I wouldn't say watching a show. You wouldn't be able to totally watch the show, but maybe if it's one you've seen already. So it's pretty relaxing, meditative, perfect for fall, perfect for today. And I woke up this morning to a really rainy day, which was a change from our weekend. It was sunny and beautiful. It was almost 70 degrees in Seattle. And on Halloween, it was the first dry Halloween we've had here where, you know, it wasn't pouring rain in as long as I can remember, really. But today we've got rain. Okay, I got one more here, or a few more, sorry. So this is what I'm doing. We're just going around, skip a bead, go through the next bead, and pull tight. When I get to the end, I was going to show you guys another idea that I just had. This happens when I'm working. I don't know if that happens to you guys too, but when I'm working on something that I've done before, especially, I start thinking about, well, how can I change it up? What can I do next? Let's see here. Okay, so just down to the last few here. So skipping a bead, going through the next one. And it should start to get pretty tight. That's good. That's what you want. Okay, just one there. Okay. All right, I'm going to move the stop bead a little further out of the way. Pick up a bead, skipping this bead, going to the next one. And it looks like I'm going to do that one more time. Okay, so skipping this one and going through the next one. This is the one my tail's exiting. There we go. And what I'm doing right now is using the tail thread as something to pull on, to tighten. And there we go. So there's my new bead that I just added. And I went through that last bead. So from here, we need to step up into this row, which is the row we just started. This was the first bead we added at the beginning. And we need to be exiting from that bead. And right now we're exiting from, let's see, from this one. So actually that means this was the first bead we added, not that one, it was this one. So we just went through this one and we're going to step up through this bead. And now we're on row 4. And that's round peyote stitch in a nutshell right there. And so right now it's laying flat. As we work this stitch, it will start coming up and it will hug the candle. And I'll do a few more stitches so you can get the idea, but it will start to come up around the side, just like that. And sometimes the first 4 rows, honestly, I work them on the candle so that I can use the candle to do that. But again, you could do whatever style you want. But the idea that I just had while we're here, this would actually be really cool if it came out in a fan, because they're laying flat like this at the moment in a round circle. I don't know if you can see that. What if it made like a circle? So to do that, what you would do is you would add 2 beads in between each one, and it would start to, and you'd have to kind of finesse it as you got out further in rows. You'll have to do some rows with 1, some with 2. Anyway, just random idea, throwing that out there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and build a few more on here so you can get the idea of how it tightens up. And then I'm gonna switch to showing how to add thread, or I might restart depending on, we're great on time, so I could start one more if everyone wants to see the beginning again. Oh, side view, yes. So the side. And that's with just those first 3 rows now. This is the first bead I've added of row 4. Right here at this bead. And so I'll put a bead in between each of these up beads all the way around. So that'd be 25 times. And then step up through this bead when I get back here. The last place I'll add a bead will be here, and step up through this one. And then you just keep going. And what I found on this design is that 15 rows, and the way you count your number of rows is count this line and this line. You'll have a row of 7 and a row of 8. And that's how you know you've reached that. That's a great height for this candle. If you have a taller candle, you'll need more beads and you'll want to build more rows. One cool thing to note though is when I made these samples, 1 tube of size 6 seed beads was exactly enough, give or take a few beads, to make this. So it gives you an idea of how many beads you'll need if you wanted to do something bigger. Okay, so just a few more on here and then I think we'll maybe start another one really quick.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi. I just wanted to let you know that, yes, people would have definitely appreciated if you would start it one more time in today's class.
Yeah, we'll do that next because I think we're doing pretty well on time. It's only 18 after the hour there. So just a few more stitches on here. Notice as I'm adding row 4 that my beads are laying flat here, but as I add a row, it starts to come up. And it'll do that all the way around. And you can help it if you're using your candle like I am, just by pushing. I'll do one more. You can tell I enjoy making these. It's really fun. All right. So I'm going to set this one aside and borrow my needle from it. Okay, and I'm going to cut another working length here. About 45 inches is the amount that it says in the handout. But again, whatever length is comfortable for you when you're pulling thread through for your length, for your arm length. I always test it kind of like a wingspan is what I usually go with. Here I'm flattening the end of the wildfire thread to make it easier to get through the needle. All right. And you know what I might try to do? If you try to do this at home, you're going to need to buy more than 1 tube of beads. But if you wanted to take and carve the mix up into its different colors so you can see row by row or make like a stripey pattern, you'll want to have more than 1 tube to make sure you have enough. But if you're going to do that and you want every row to have a different color, that would be kind of cool. I'm going to string the first stop bead here. Whoop. I'm working with a shorter length this time. So to make a stop bead, you bring it about 7 or so inches from the bottom, 7 to 10 inches. Come back through the bead and pull tight. And it just makes it so that your beads don't slip off the end when you're doing this first stringing row. So let's see, I'm going to put 50 beads on. And I always do that in groups of 10. So there's 10. Switching colors. Actually, no, we'll stick with this color. I kind of want to see one where you string a different color for every 10 to see what that would look like. Okay, that's 30. And 40. I just need 10 more. I think I can get 10 of that color out of this pile. Too short. Get 2 more. Okay, there we go. So there's 10. So that's a total of 50 beads on the string. I'm going to candle in and go around. And I'm going to go back through the first bead I added. And then just pull tight. And now I'm going to pick up a new color. I'm going to go with this one. Skip a bead and go through the next bead. And for those first few adds, you're going to need that tail thread and pull on it each time you add a bead. And after the first few, you won't have to do that anymore. But I just picked up another bead, and I'm going to skip a bead and go through the next. Okay. And I'm just going to do that all the way around 25 times, skipping the bead that's after the one my thread's exiting, going into the next one. Skipping a bead to go through the next one. And mine flipped here. I'm just going to flip it back. Here we go. So you can clearly see which ones are the third row there because they're a different color. Okay. And skip a bead and go for the next one. And the same thing here. I'll try to go just a little bit faster with this one. Yeah, this is going to be really pretty. I'm going to finish this one and post it. This would be a really nice idea for a table decor at a wedding. Or any party, really. Any evening party. Oh, and let's see. So for candles, if you wanted to use a real candle in it, I can't recommend that because I haven't tested it myself and I don't know what heat, what that would do. So I can't recommend it, but I did take my first photos with a real candle in it. Okay. See, just going around and around, skipping a bead and going through the next bead. After, well, you pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next. And as it's getting tight, one way to get your needle in between the two beads is to kind of lift one of the beads away from the strand so that it opens up a spot to get the needle in. I'll show you that next. So skipping this bead, I want to go into this one. I'm lifting it. That kind of helps just a little bit for when it starts to get tight. There we go. These do work out really fast. You'll have it done in an hour. I think they'd be really cute. I put in like a little gift bag. Okay, going to the next one here. And so as I get closer to where I started, the tail's going to start getting in the way. So I'm going to pull that out of the way. And one more here. Skipping a bead, going for the next one. Okay, so I think I'm at my last bead here. I'm going to pull the stop bead out of the way and show you guys that final finish and step up. So pick up a new bead, skip that bead, and go through the one the tail is exiting. And then you can use your tail to tighten. Flip this one that way. So my top bead is on top. There we go. And just tighten. Okay, so I'm gonna move the candle for a second so I can show you where I am. I exited from that first bead there, added my last one, and now I need to, in order to start row 4, I need to step up into row 3. So I want to go through that bead. So I'm going to go through just that one. And if it's tight, see, you can bring the needle kind of like this, down sideways, pull back, and turn. The trick to getting through tight beads. Okay, there it is. And at this point, you could pull the stop bead off if you'd like to. And straightening it out a little bit. I'm gonna put the candle back in there. And I'm gonna start building a little bit of row 4, just like we did before, so you can see it start to wrap. And I'll show you guys a side view really quick. There's a side view. This is the row I just added, row 3. Okay. And so I'm working with the same color for this next row as well. Oops, sorry, I hit the camera with my arm there. It's still in focus. It's moved. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna go through each of the up beads. So the up beads are the ones we just added. So we're gonna put a bead in between each of these spaces all the way around, and then do what we did before and step up into this first bead. And then just pulling tight, using the candle to create a round shape. This thread will has a little bit of memory. So I don't know if you've ever noticed when you pull wildfire or fireline off of a spool and maybe coil it around your finger, you notice how it'll kind of stay like that. Like right now it's straight. But if I do this to it and pull a little bit, it remembers. Well, that's what I'm doing when I pull it against the candle. I'm trying to make it remember that I want it to make whatever the shape looks like in threadland inside those beads to hold a rounded shape around my candle. And so not required, but it's just one of those little extras that you can do to make the beads do what you're hoping they'll do. And there it goes. And with every bead, it just starts getting more and more candle looking. Let's see how we're doing. We're at 30 minutes past the hour, so we're doing really, really well. What do you guys think about me finishing this row, or should I go ahead and move on to adding thread to make sure we have time to show you the, you know, how to resize this project? I'll just keep going for maybe a few more.
You're getting a lot of requests for adding thread.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, and then finishing the row so you can show them how to resize.
Awesome. Okay. So you guys can already see from what I've got here how it's going to stack. So see, they're already starting to come they're already starting to come up. The beads are starting to form around the side, just like we want them to. From there, it's the same thing all the way around. And eventually what will happen is you'll get to a point where you need to add thread. And so what you can do for that, and this was my tail, so I'm gonna flip it over. Okay, so that was my tail, and this was my working thread. It's getting short. I'm gonna set my working thread aside for now. And I'm gonna cut a new strand. Let's see here. Okay. And same trick as before for getting the needle threaded with flattening it. I'm getting a new needle. Okay, folding that down at about 7 inches, just like we did at the start. And I am gonna pull the candle out for just a second so I can show you a side view of what I'm gonna do. This thread is exiting from here. And I wanna remember that because that's where I want to be with my new thread. And to get there, I wanna change direction 3 times. So it kind of doesn't matter where I start as long as it's in the neighborhood. But just come in through any bead. It's kind of around there. Leave a little bit of tail so we can use that as our test to see if it moves when we pull. Go through 1 or 2 more. There's 1. And went through the second one. So already it's tightening up pretty good, just having gone through 3 beads in the same direction. But now I'm going to turn. And the way that peyote stitch is built, you can turn into the bead below. Your thread will not show. It'll sit right there in between those 2. So now I'm going to go back through that next bead. And go through another one. I do have a kind of pattern. You don't have to do this pattern, but I go 3 beads, turn, 3 beads, turn, 3 beads, turn. And it's as long as you change direction 3 times, it doesn't really matter how many beads you went through. But here's my second turn. I'll go through another one. And you go through 1 more. Now I want to think about, how do I get here? In order to do that, I'm going to need to keep going. So I'm going to go through a few more. Here. Now I'm going to go through this bead. This is the bead below where I want to be. I'm going to keep going because I know I need to turn. Go down through this one. And I caught that tail. I'm going to move it. Already this tail, it won't move when you pull. See? So we're pretty good. We're woven in. I'm just getting to where I need to be now. I did another turn. And here I am. Oops. I don't want to go through that one, just that one. Okay, so I'm exiting from the same places where my tail thread was. I'm going to set the tail, or sorry, my old working thread. Putting my old working thread aside still. And I'm going to build another row. Let me get these guys out of the way. These other beads here. Okay, and I'm bringing out the sapphire. The mix you're seeing here right now is sapphire. This is going to be gorgeous with a candle in it. I cannot wait to see it. Oh, and this little strand. Let's go ahead and trim that. We don't need that there anymore. To do that, I kind of hold the strand and push down with the scissors, pull up with the strand, push down with the scissors and clip. All right. Pulling that working thread out of the way, the old working thread. And we'll just keep going. Building the next row. So pretty easy. Well, what I'll do here is go a few more and then explain what to do with the old working thread. But the gist of it is I'm going to do the same thing I did before, but I'm just going to weave it up into the new row as much as I can. That just serves to secure that new row and not have too many passes of strand through the same section of beads. On a design like this, that's not as important, but on, say, like if you were making a bracelet and when you were weaving it in, you immediately took the other working thread and just wove it back into the same place, you'd end up with a stiff section that wouldn't move the way the rest of the bracelet does. But on this project, it's not as important. It's just a habit, really, for me. Okay.
Danielle?
Yeah.
People are wondering too, as you're going through this part, how do you know you're done? How do you finish that top row?
So when you've reached the height that you want for your candle?
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be weaving in the thread. I'll show you with the tail of this one, actually. Let me do that now. Pull this last bead through. So all you would do here is you would take and weave this, old working thread into that top row. Same way we did with adding. This is the tail thread that I had at the bottom that I started with. I pulled off the stop bead, and I think I had already started to weave it in just to make sure it didn't come loose for before class, because I didn't want it to unravel. But I'm going to change direction. And this gives me a chance actually to share another idea. So what we did before was we went through some beads, changed direction, went through a few more beads, changed direction. And we did that 3 times and then trimmed. And we could do that now, and that would be great. Then there is the possibility, though, if you wanted to fill these little spaces in so that when your candle's sitting on its side, it's flat at the base. I thought of this later after I'd already done the project, but would it be cool if you put some 11s or some 10s in between? I don't know. I thought about trying that. But that's just an idea I wanted to share in case anyone likes that. I don't know. Do you want to see it? I could throw some in there really quick. Here's some 11s. This is aqua. So they match, but they're different enough that we should be able to see. And again, this is just me on the fly, just adding something. It might be kind of cute. So there's what that would look like if you wanted to add additional flair to your piece. You could just do that. And so to finish it, you would just go through 3 beads, change direction, go through 3 beads, change direction, and trim. How does everyone feel about weaving in and adding new thread? Do you want to see that again, or? Thanks. Okay, cool. I couldn't tell if was that a request to add thread one more time? Or weave in again? If everyone is feeling good about that.
There's definitely a lot of interest in what happens when you start the second row and keep going. So if maybe you want to go back to one of the originals.
Second, I think I'm trying to figure out the question. Do you mean to finish weaving in at the top?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I'll just go ahead and show you guys that. It's the same step as we had for when we added new thread. I'm going to take these beads out that I added off really quick. This was just an embellishment idea. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's say this was the top of the candle. It was your last row. To weave in, go through 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just kind of randomly choosing where I go, but I went through those 3, and now I'm turning turning through the bead that's directly below it. And I'll go through 3 more. And 2, 3. Oops. With the hooks, just unhook it. There we go. And change direction again. And it doesn't matter which ones you go through. We're just kind of trying to make it so that it's not going to unravel. Okay. And this is my 3rd change of direction here. So with peyote stitch, you'll always have, when you exit any bead, you'll always have a choice of going left or right. And when you're weaving in, it doesn't matter which way you go. And there you go. That's my 3rd bead. And I'm going to trim by pulling the thread up and pushing down with the scissors, and then cut. There it is. So if that was your last row, that's all you would need to do. Just weave in like that. And mine is short because I didn't finish going up to the top on this one, but
Danielle, I wanted to let you know an idea from the sidebar is as more and more people are looking at it, they're also wondering if it would be great for napkin holders.
Yeah, my mom said napkin rings would be amazing. And you could even put like a little charm on there. That'd be so cool. That's a great idea. See, there's so many things you can do with beads. Let's see. So I had a question from a student before. Pat, if you're there, shout out to you, about making this fit other size candles, because I kind of assumed that all candles were 1.5 inches or so. And to the extent that these guys are close enough, I was able to, you know, make them both work. But if you have a candle that's different, or maybe you're not using a candle, there's another way you could start this project that would make it customizable to any circumference. So I'm going to show you really quick. There's 2 ways you could do it. One is you could just build a peyote stitch the same way you do a bracelet. And we've done that before in one of our classes called embellished peyote cuff. And that's just, you'd make a cuff bracelet. The limitation there is you'd be stuck with the height you start with. But here's a way you could do it if you don't know what height you want yet, or you're not sure and you want to see it, and you don't really know what count you need to go around your object. Here's a way that you could kind of guess. You'll need 2 needles. Put a needle on one end of your strand, cut a pretty long strand, and then put a needle on your other side. I'm gonna do that really quick. Let's see where we're at. We're at the 15-minute mark here. I think that will be plenty of time to show this. Okay, folding that over. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to bring 3 beads kind of down to the center here. And I'm going to take this needle and go back through that top bead there and pull. And what will happen is these will sit side by side. And you guys that took the bangle class with me, you'll recognize this as kind of similar to how we did that. But see how I just made a little triangle? Now here's all you need to do. Grab 1 bead on one needle, 1 bead on the other, and now go through in the same direction, go through the same bead. Pull it down, pull tight. This is also the trick for how to start a peyote stitch bracelet that we shared during the embellished peyote cuff class that we did back in, I think it was either August or July, to check, but this is the same trick that we did there. So if you refer to that PDF project, you'll see a diagram of what I'm doing. And so just keep going. I'm going to go for long enough to show you how to join it. So I put a bead on each needle, and I'm picking up 1 more bead, and I'm going to go through that bead. And pull apart. Oh, and I've got this hooked around to this other bead here. So I'm just going to pull it back. There we go. And so just another bead on the needle here. And a bead on the needle here. Then I'm picking up another bead and going through it. Pull them apart. And see, we're getting that peyote stack. This is exactly what rows 1, 2, and 3 look like on the votive candle. We're just doing them shorthand. Going through that bead. I need a few more so that they'll meet. So let me add just a few more really quick. One on each needle. One through the same. You'll need to pull pretty tight because they're just going to want to come apart. I think a couple more and I'll have enough to join. Okay, go through here. Oh, and so the stepping up, yeah, let's see. So I don't have a sample at that stage at the moment. Let me see if I'm going to get to the end of joining this, and then we'll see if I can pull a row together on that other sample I have in process. Okay, so I'm adding 2 beads. Go through here. And there we go. Let's try to join this now so we can have some extra minutes. So if I wanted to form a circle with what I have here, much too small for what we have planned. I mean, if you were going to do a larger than what we've got, you wanted to keep going, you just keep going and then just start measuring it around the object that you want to use. So as you're building this, stop every, 10 or 12 ads and then measure it against your object. And when you reach the length that you like, this is your down bead and these are your up beads. So you want to come around with each strand and go through one. And what'll happen is it'll form a ring. And this one's going to be a very tiny ring. And then go through and do the same thing with your other thread through the other bead. So you see I went in that one last time. I'm going to go through this one. And pull. There we go. So that's a really tiny example. And then I'm going to take both needles through the next down bead so I can have a uniform place to tighten. So I'll show you that again because it's just going to keep getting loose at the moment. Like with all bead stitches, those first rows don't tighten up until you put on the 4th row. Seems to be the rule, it's the 4th row. Okay, so I know that's a really tiny example, but there's rows 1, 2, and 3, a way to do them any length you'd like. I hope that made sense. And again, if you want to see a diagram of how that was done, take a look at the embellished peyote cuff and then join the down beads with the down bead with the 2 up beads the way we did here. Yeah. And again, this is available on replay too, so you'll be able to see that demonstration on replay. Okay, stepping up. I think I was closest to that spot on this one. I had just added a few here. Where are we at? We've got about 9 minutes. Okay. So you just keep going through your row. And I'll get there as fast as I can. Got a little bit of ways to go here. Oh, it really started to rain just now. Okay. Actually, I'm there. All right, so adding another bead. And remember, this is the sample we were showing how to add thread. So this thread here that's hanging out is my old working thread, and we didn't weave that in yet. So I'm just pulling it out of the way so I can show you. With my new working thread, I'm adding another bead. And you notice how this is my up bead right here. Let me get this so I want it to be really visible. Okay, so there's my next up bead. I came out of this one, which was the up bead before, picking up a new bead. The next up bead, and you notice I've got this other bead here in the spot where I would normally put a bead. Well, that was the first one I added in this ring. Blue is really hard to see actually, but so this is the first bead that was added when we started this row, and this was my last up bead. So now I'm going to just keep going. I didn't pick up a new bead. I'm just going to keep going through that one. And now I'm in position to start the next row by putting a new bead here, 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 and here. And I would just keep going until I felt I had the height that would work for my candle. I hope that answered your question. Unless anyone has anything else, I can switch to my other camera and maybe show you guys. Actually, I'll stay here for a minute. Carmi, should I show the next classes here on the mat?
Danielle, two things.
Yeah.
People want to know why you didn't add a bottom.
Oh, well, okay, so the reason I didn't is that's a really advanced technique. When you start doing flat round, there's some finessing. I kind of spoke to it a little bit when I was talking about how cool it would be to come out flat from here. What starts to happen after you've got 4 rows is you have to increase and decrease. And those kind of, that class, I would need more than an hour to show that because I'd really want to go through that a couple times. There'd be lots of questions, but I would love to do that in a class sometime.
Thank you. I appreciate the information.
Sure.
But definitely we have just enough time to maybe give them a preview of the next classes.
Yay. Okay. So next week, I'm really excited about next week because it's one of my favorite stitches. I think it is actually my favorite stitch. It's called Flat Chenille. And it's an intermediate stitch, but don't let that scare you from joining class because it's intermediate only for a minute. And then all of a sudden it just clicks, and it'll click for you in a way where you won't need to look at the pattern anymore. But it's built a lot like Peyote stitch, almost identical to Peyote stitch, but it's like switching between single and 2 drop back and forth between the rows. So really fun and lots of design potential here that you can do. So many fun examples. It doesn't take very long, and you can work it with any size beads combination that you like. For example, this is 8s and 11s. This is 8s and 10s, and this is 6s with 8s. So, and lots of different ways to finish it. We'll go through all that. And then after that, the class after that is beaded garlands. So we're going to learn how to do some knotting with waxed linen and some tweezers. I use tweezers. There's a method you can do without tweezers too, but I'll show you guys all how to do that. And lots of color combinations there. We'll also be making a tassel with some embroidery thread. So there's that one. And then the last class is these really cool earrings. Actually, they're the ones I've been wearing. And this is brick stitch. We did a brick stitch class early. I think it was like our 3rd class maybe. And everybody was asking, hey, what do you do on the next rows? Because in that class, all we did was 1 round of beads. We did a kind of pattern around a frame. And so since everyone wanted to know that, I thought, well, let's take it to the next level. Let's do another row and let's add a charm. And let's make a little loop for the ear wire. So grab any charms you like. I'll speak to being able to use different hoops, but these are hoops that are available at Michael's, and the SKU number is in the parts list when you sign up. So you'll see which ones I'm using here, and that's the one that the counts during class will work with best. But again, you can work with any frame you like. And on that note, I'm gonna switch my camera up. Hey. And so yeah, that's all the classes. It's going to be a really fun one. And I think there's going to be some other projects coming up on on, you know, if you go into the Michaels website and you browse just to like regular projects that aren't classes, we have some John Bead projects coming up there that are really cool. So check that out. Be sure to take a look. And unless anyone has any other questions, I wish you guys all a really great Tuesday evening. And I hope to see you next week. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you.